From the unforgettable melodies of One-Winged Angel to the epic guitar riffs of Killer Cuts, these soundtracks have captured the hearts and imaginations of gamers for decades. So sit back, grab your headphones, and prepare to be immersed in the unforgettable sounds of the 10 most epic video game soundtracks of all time. Number 10. Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X is a classic game that was released in 2001 for the PS2. This RPG is known for its engaging storyline, interesting characters, and beautiful soundtrack. The music for the game was composed by the legendary Nobuo Uematsu and was performed by the Tokyo Philharmonic Orchestra. One of the most popular songs from the Final Fantasy X soundtrack is To Zanarkand. This hauntingly beautiful piece of music plays during the game's opening sequence and is a perfect example of Uematsu's ability to evoke strong emotions with his music. The piano melody is simple yet powerful, and it perfectly captures the melancholic tone of the game's storyline. Another standout song from the FF10 soundtrack is entitled Suteki Dene. This song is sung in Japanese by Riki, a Japanese pop singer, and is used as a love theme for the game's main characters, Tidus and Yuna. The song is incredibly emotional and has a sweeping, cinematic quality that makes it feel like it belongs in a Hollywood film. One of the reasons why the FF10 soundtrack is so popular with fans is that it perfectly captures the mood and tone of the game. The music is a perfect blend of orchestral, electronic, and choral elements, and it all comes together to create a unique and memorable sound. Additionally, the music is used to great effect throughout the game, helping to build tension and emotion during key moments. Overall, the Final Fantasy X soundtrack is a masterpiece of video game music that has quite easily stood the test of time. With its beautiful melodies, emotional themes, and unforgettable moments, it's really no wonder why so many fans continue to listen to and love this soundtrack. Hello gamers, Maker here. I have some really exciting news that I cannot wait to share with you all. For a long time, I've been passionate about content creation and helping others turn their ideas of content creation into a reality. And now, I'm thrilled to announce that I'm launching a new online course called Maker Masterclass. If you've ever thought about starting a YouTube channel or creating content of any kind, but you're not quite sure where to begin, this course is perfect for you. It's designed specifically for beginners who are just starting out and need guidance on everything from content creation to monetization. I've gamified the entire process of making money on YouTube using only a basic computer, free applications, and internet access. With my step-by-step instructions and my personalized guidance through our weekly meetings, you'll have all the tools you need to turn your content creation dreams into a reality. In fact, this very video you're watching serves as a case sample in the course, broken down into bite-sized videos that detail exactly how I make this video step by step, so you can quickly learn to create your own content. As one of my loyal followers, I wanted to give you all a chance to get in on the ground floor. So for a limited time, you can get access to Maker Masterclass for only $1 a day during our pre-launch event. But once we've officially launched, the normal pricing kicks in, so enroll today at makermasterclass.com or use the link in the description. Whether you're looking to make a little extra cash on the side or turn content creation into a full-time gig, Maker Masterclass has everything you need to get started. At the end of the day, I think we're all makers of some kind, and I can show you how to turn your passions into profit and potentially so much more. So if you're ready to transform your life, get started today at makermasterclass.com. See you in class. Number 9. Super Mario 64. When it comes to classic video game soundtracks, few are as instantly recognizable as the one for Super Mario 64. Released in 1996 for the Nintendo 64, this game was a groundbreaking 3D platformer that revolutionized the industry, and its soundtrack played no small part in its success. One of the soundtracks from the game is titled Dire Dire Docks, which plays during underwater levels. The gentle melody and ethereal synths perfectly capture the peaceful, serene, and elegant feeling of exploring the game's underwater environments. It's a prime example of how the Mario 64 soundtrack uses music simply to enhance the player's experience and create a cohesive, immersive world. Another iconic track from the game is Bob Omb Battlefield, which plays during the game's first level. With its catchy melody and upbeat tempo, it's the perfect introduction to the game's playful and adventurous tone. The use of brass instruments in the song gives it a bold, triumphant feeling that perfectly matches the player's sense of accomplishment as they defeat enemies and collect coins. But perhaps the most famous track from Mario 64 is the game's main theme, Super Mario 64 main theme. This cheerful, upbeat tune is instantly recognizable to nearly anyone who's played the game, and has become a classic video game theme in its own right. Its lively piano melody perfectly captures the fun and excitement of exploring the game's colorful, fresh worlds and collecting the Power Stars. If you are blessed to be born early enough to experience the launch of this platform, it was quite the treat. The Nintendo 64, alongside this game, made for many people's peak childhood memories. Overall, the Mario 64 soundtrack is a testament to how music can be used to enhance a player's experience in a video game. With its catchy melodies, upbeat tempos, and clever instrumentation, it's no wonder that this soundtrack is still beloved by gamers over 2 decades after the game's release. Number 8. Final Fantasy VII. When it comes to video game soundtracks, few are as beloved as Final Fantasy VII's. Released in 1997 for the PlayStation 1, FF7 is considered a classic of the RPG genre, and its soundtrack is a big part of what makes it so memorable. One of the most iconic tracks from the game is One Winged Angel. This song plays during the final battle against the game's primary antagonist, Sephiroth, and has become synonymous with the character ever since. The song's operatic vocals, booming percussion, and haunting melodies perfectly capture the sense of grandeur and epicness of the final battle, making it one of the most memorable moments in gaming history. Another standout track from the game is Aerith's theme. This gentle, melancholic melody plays during some of the game's most emotional moments, including the death of Aerith, one of the game's central characters. The song's use of a solo piano and a mournful string section perfectly captures the sadness and tragedy of the moment, making it one of the most emotionally resonant pieces of video game music ever composed. But it's not just the game's more dramatic moments that are elevated by the soundtrack. Even the game's more mundane moments are enhanced by the music. For example, the song Hurry plays during battles and creates a sense of urgency and excitement that keeps the player engaged during the game's numerous battles. The track Opening Bombing Mission sets the tone for the game immediately from the start of the game, with its use of a driving rock beat and ominous synth sounds perfectly capturing the game's dystopian cyberpunk setting. Overall, the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack is a masterful work of video game music. Its use of a wide range of musical styles, from orchestral and operatic to rock and electronic, perfectly captures the game's varied moods and themes. It's a testament to the power of video game music, used to elevate a game from a simple entertainment experience to a true work of art. Number 7. Killer Instinct. Killer Instinct, otherwise known as KI, is a classic fighting game that was released in 1994 for the arcade and later for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. One of the most notable aspects of the game is its hard-hitting soundtrack, which perfectly captures the game's intense and adrenaline-fueled fighting gameplay. One of the standout tracks from the game is Cinder's theme. This song plays during the matches in which the character Cinder is being played, and is notable for its use in electric guitar riffs and pounding bass drums. The song captures the character's fiery persona and adds an extra layer of intensity to the gameplay. But perhaps the most famous track from the KI soundtrack is The Instinct. This track plays during the game's Attract mode and is an epic and energetic introduction to the game's overall tone. The song's use of driving percussion, electric guitars, and a synthesized choir creates a sense of intensity and urgency that gets the player pumped up immediately and ready to fight. Overall, the Killer Instinct soundtrack is a classic example of how video games can enhance the player's experience and create a more immersive gameplay environment. Its use of hard-hitting, guitar-driven tracks ramps up the game's intensity and adrenaline-fueled fighting gameplay, and its memorable themes and melodies have become classic examples of video game music to this day. Number 6. Donkey Kong Country. Donkey Kong Country is a classic platformer game that was released for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System in 1994. One of the most notable aspects of the game is its catchy and memorable soundtrack, which was composed by David Wise and Eveline Fisher. One of the most iconic tracks from the game is Aquatic Ambiance. The song plays during underwater levels and is a perfect example of how video game music can enhance the atmosphere and the environment of the game. The song's use of gentle synths and a slow, melodic melody creates a sense of calm and tranquility that perfectly matches the underwater setting of the game. Another standout track from the game is Gangplank Galleon. The song plays during the final battle against King K. Rool and is an energetic and memorable track that perfectly captures the intensity of the scene. The song's use of a driving rhythm section, brass sections, and a catchy melody creates a sense of excitement and tension that keeps the player engaged and motivated to win. But perhaps the most famous track from the Donkey Kong Country soundtrack is DK Island Swing. This song plays during the game's opening level and has become synonymous with the game's overall tone and feel. The song's use of a jazzy, upbeat melody, along with a driving rhythm section, wonderfully captures the game's sense of fun and adventure. And its catchy theme has become a classic example of video game music, used often even today. Overall, the Donkey Kong Country soundtrack is an exquisite example of how video game music can enhance the overall experience and add an extra layer of atmosphere and emotion to the gameplay. Its use of catchy melodies, memorable themes, and diverse musical styles matches the game's various environments and settings, making it one of the most beloved video game soundtracks of all time. Number 5. STARCRAFT. STARCRAFT is a classic real-time strategy game released by Blizzard Entertainment in 1998. The game features an iconic and memorable soundtrack composed by Derek Duke, Glenn Stafford, and Jason Hayes that perfectly captures the game's most epic space opera setting and intense gameplay. One of the standout tracks from the STARCRAFT soundtrack is Terran Theme 1. This song plays during the missions that involves the game's human faction, the Terrans, and is notable for its use in a driving beat, electric guitar riffs, and synthesizer melodies. The song's use of a rock-infused sound creates a sense of urgency and intensity that matches remarkably well with the game's strategic gameplay. Another notable soundtrack is Zerg Theme 3. This song is used during the game's insectoid alien faction missions, the Zerg. The song's use of haunting synths, choral vocals, and a pulsing beat creates a sense of uneasiness and tension that perfectly encapsulates the Zerg's otherworldly and menacing presence. But perhaps the most famous track from the StarCraft soundtrack is Tearin' Up the Night. This song plays during the game's opening cinematic and has become a classic example of video game music. The song's use of driving percussion, guitar riffs, and synth melodies create a sense of epicness and grandeur that perfectly matches the game's sprawling space opera setting. The StarCraft soundtrack's use of diverse musical styles, memorable themes, and epic melodies matches the game's strategic gameplay and setting, coming together to form a beloved video game soundtrack. Number 4. Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger is a beloved JRPG developed by Square in 1995. The game features an iconic and critically acclaimed soundtrack, composed by Yasunori Mitsuda, who created a masterpiece that perfectly captured the game's time-traveling narrative, unique characters, and diverse settings. One of the standout tracks from the Chrono Trigger soundtrack is Corridors of Time. The song plays during the game's visit to the lost civilization of Zeal, and is notable for its use of hauntingly beautiful melodies, soaring vocal harmonies, and lush instrumentation. The song's use of harp, strings, and flute creates a dreamy and ethereal atmosphere that perfectly matches the game's otherworldly setting. Another notable track from the soundtrack is Frog's theme. This song plays during the introduction of the character named Frog, and is a wonderful example of how game music can enhance the player's emotional connection to the game's characters. The song's use of heroic brass fanfares, soaring melodies, and a driving beat creates a sense of valor and nobility that perfectly matches Frog's character and his quest for redemption. But perhaps the most famous track from the Chrono Trigger soundtrack is the aptly named Chrono Trigger. This song plays during the game's opening cinematic and has become an enduring classic among video game music fans. The song's use of a catchy and memorable melody, upbeat rhythms, and synth sound effects perfectly utilizes the game's time-traveling narrative and its iconic melody. Overall, the Chrono Trigger soundtrack illustrates perfectly how video game music can enhance the player's emotional connection with a game and its characters, and create a more immersive gameplay environment. Its use of diverse musical styles, memorable themes, and epic melodies matches the game's unique narrative and characters, and has since become one of the most beloved and iconic video game soundtracks of all time. Number 3. Halo. Halo is a first-person shooter game developed by Bungie Studios and released in 2001. The game's soundtrack, composed by Martin O'Donnell and Michael Salvatore, is widely regarded as one of the greatest video game soundtracks of all time. It features a blend of orchestral, choral, and electronic elements that surmises and captures the game's sci-fi settings, epic space battles, and emotional moments. One of the most iconic tracks from the Halo soundtrack is the Halo theme. This song, which plays during the game's main menu and opening cinematic, has become one of the most recognizable pieces of video game music ever created. The song's use of a hauntingly beautiful choral melody, soaring strings, and driving percussion perfectly captures the game's epic scale and grandeur. Another standout track from the Halo soundtrack is Brothers in Arms. This song plays during the game's final level and features a somber, reflective melody that perfectly reflects the emotional weight of the game's climax. The song's use of a solo piano, strings, and choir creates a poignant and introspective atmosphere that perfectly matches the game's themes of sacrifice and heroism. But perhaps the most beloved track from the Halo soundtrack is One Final Effort. This song plays during the game's climactic Warthog Run sequence and has become a fan favorite for its use of a roaring and driving percussion, soaring brass fanfares, and a memorable melody. The song roars with the game's urgency, danger, and triumph, making it an unforgettable moment in video game history. The Halo soundtrack is a remarkable example of how video game music can amplify a player's emotional attachment to the game, as well as the intensity of their gameplay involvement. By combining orchestral, choral, and electronic components, the soundtrack aptly complements the game's grandiose magnitude, high-stakes conflicts, and poignant instances, solidifying its status as one of the most legendary and cherished video game soundtracks ever produced. Number 2. World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft, otherwise known as WoW, is a massively multiplayer online RPG developed by Blizzard Entertainment and released in 2004. The game's soundtrack, composed by Russell Brower, Derek Duke, Glenn Stafford, and other talented composers, is an epic and immersive collection of music that wonderfully captures the game's vast and diverse world. One of the most iconic tracks from the World of Warcraft soundtrack is Legends of Azeroth. This song, which plays during the game's main menu, is a grand and majestic orchestral piece that perfectly sets the tone for the game's epic adventure. The song's use of sweeping strings, powerful brass, and haunting choral vocals creates a sense of wonder and excitement that perfectly matches the player's journey into the vast and magical world of Azeroth. Another standout track from the soundtrack is Invincible. This song, which plays during the game's Wrath of the Lich King expansion, is a beautiful and poignant orchestral piece that tremendously relays the tragic story of Arthas Menethil, the fallen prince turned undead tyrant. The song's use of a somber piano, swelling strings, and haunting choir creates a powerful and emotional atmosphere that wonderfully exhibits the game's themes of sacrifice and loss. But perhaps the most beloved track from the WoW soundtrack is Lament of the Highborn. This song, which plays during the game's Burning Crusade expansion, is a hauntingly beautiful piece that features a solo female vocal performance in the Elven language of the game's fictional world. The song's melancholic melody and ethereal vocals have made it a fan favorite and an iconic part of the game's lore. The World of Warcraft soundtrack is a brilliant assemblage of music that adeptly captures the game's expansive and multifaceted universe, momentous quests, and poignant tales. With its incorporation of orchestral and choral components, it evokes a feeling of majesty and awe that seamlessly corresponds with the player's exploration of the massive, immersive realm. It's truly unsurprising that the WoW soundtrack is highly esteemed by enthusiasts and is regarded as one of the most distinguished and preeminent video game soundtracks ever created. Number 1. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. This game is often regarded as one of the greatest video games of all time, and a large part of its appeal is in its memorable soundtrack. Composed by Koji Kondo and released in 1998 for the Nintendo 64, the game's music features a variety of styles and instruments, including the titular ocarina. The Hyrule Field theme is a standout track, serving as the background music for the vast and expansive Hyrule Field area that connects all the different parts of the game world. Another popular track is the Gerudo Valley theme, which features a catchy melody and upbeat rhythm that runs superbly well alongside the adventurous spirit of the game. But perhaps the most emotionally resonant track in the game is Zelda's Lullaby, which plays during key story moments and cutscenes. This gentle, melancholic melody wonderfully captures the game's themes of friendship, courage, and sacrifice. It has become a beloved theme for the entire series, and has been featured in subsequent Zelda games, and even in other media, such as the Super Smash Bros. Series. Another memorable track from the Ocarina of Time soundtrack is the Lost Woods theme. This playful, upbeat tune plays while navigating through the maze-like Lost Woods area, and it has become a fan favorite due to its infectious melody and the memorable use of instrumentation. One of the most emotional tracks in the game is the Windmill Hut, a haunting melody that plays in the abandoned windmill of Kakariko Village. The melancholic tune adds a layer of sadness to an already somber location, and it has become a fan favorite due to its evocative and memorable use of music. The compilation of music in the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time soundtrack is a masterful creation and effectively embodies the essence of the game. The innovative use of the ocarina as both a gameplay mechanic and musical instrument is a brilliant concept, enabling players to engage the game world in an unparalleled and engaging manner. The captivating melodies of Ocarina of Time have become an endearing aspect of gaming culture, constantly sparking inspiration among fans and musicians alike. Thanks again for joining us on this journey through the top 10 most epic video game soundtracks of all time. Don't forget to let us know in the comments which soundtrack is your favorite and which games you think should have made the list. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with our latest videos. A big shout out and thank you to the channel members that help support this channel every month, and thank you for watching. Until next time, Maker out.